In our continuing series examining the state of the union of the hard rock and metal music landscape today, we sat down with Paul Gargano from Streetsmart Marketing and Metal Edge magazine. We discussed the hard rock and metal music scene today, as well as the most important platforms besides live performances that are needed to break a new metal or hard rock act. Coming up. So hi, we're coming to you back from the second annual Global Rock Summit at the Roosevelt Hotel. And we managed to catch up with Paul Gargano of Streetsmart Marketing, one of the leading music marketing companies in hard rock. And he's also one of the owners and publishers of Metal Edge magazine. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
MUBUTV.
Thank you.
My first question, you've obviously been immersed in the world of hard rock and metal for many, many years now. From your perspective, is this a healthy time for rock and metal?
See, it could be. I don't think it is, which I know sounds negative, but it's definitely, we're in a very strange, what I see at least, is a transitional period right now. And I think it's up to a lot of people to carry that transition, and I don't think a lot of people understand the weight of it. Over the years, we used to have, back when I started in the industry, there used to be gatekeepers, if you will. There was, we knew if an album came out, it's going to come out on a major label, and we knew there was going to be a certain level of quality control. Today, anybody can do anything they want. And in a way, that's fantastic because it breaks the walls down for everybody, but it also has eliminated a lot of people's willingness to go out and work and become the biggest band before they got signed.
Right.
So we've got a lot of people learning on the road, learning as they do things, and anybody can have their own record label today. So you have a lot of people putting records out and not knowing what to do once they go out. So it's a really confusing time, I think, for a lot of people. They think it's great because they could play rock star at home,
right?
But in the reality, the business side of it itself isn't as great as everybody thinks it is.
Can you give us a brief overview of your company, Streetsmart Marketing, and and its role in artist career?
Right. We came out of Century Media, which is a record label, and the owner saw a need in the market. He saw an opportunity to really start providing services that weren't available for people. Just as I said, there's a lot of people who don't know how to market. They don't know how to put a record out. They start their own record label, but they don't know, what do I have to do to get my album on iTunes? What do I have to do to get to radio? So as basically an offshoot, a parallel company of Century Media, the owner, Robert Kampf, started Streetsmart Marketing. It's a marketing and management company. We merged recently with Concrete Marketing, which is a legendary company.
The parties.
The party, exactly, yeah. So we have now Streetsmart Management and Concrete Marketing.
Wow.
And it's full service music industry and entertainment industry marketing.
And is it tailored to the hard rock worlds or a different?
It caters to rock. That's obviously right. When you've got the collective of us, we're very rock leaning, but we do work with other types of bands, but it's definitely more geared toward the rock and metal side of things.
That's great. I didn't even know Concrete was still around. That's awesome. Yeah, great company.
Well, hopefully we'll be hearing more.
Yeah. And my next question, today we have so many platforms to market music and reach audiences. Have these been helpful in breaking new acts, or is live performance still the most important factor in breaking a hard rock metal act?
I think everyone has tools now. You think that's the important, it used to be you put a song out on radio, it broke, you sold a couple 100,000 singles, you sold 1 million records. Now everyone's got all these different tools. And I think people, they forget that you still need the complete package. So it's definitely helpful to have the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Twitters and the different marketing outlets out there and the social media outlets. But again, if you can't play live,
right,
what are you going to do? I mean, you can't. There have been, I'd say about probably 8-10 years ago, we had when MySpace, a bunch of artists got signed off on MySpace, and the realization people came to quickly was they may have 1 million followers or 1 million friends on MySpace, but if they can't play, what are we going to do with the band?
Right.
So right now, I think it's an odd time. Like I said, you've got these tools out there. People think they're really good at Facebook, so they want their only tool to be Facebook.
Right.
And that gets difficult. And I think It becomes more important to a lot of people to have 25,000 likes on Facebook than it is to have 25 people at their live show. And that's where you get the disconnect.
Yeah, definitely. At what point do you consider a band should be at before they're considering to tour?
Well, I think a band should be touring, period. They should be able to play their instruments, obviously. Right. But I mean, ultimately, touring is where you learn how to play.
Right.
And that's what any of the bands, any of the bands that are just established classic bands now. And unfortunately, that's what a successful band is now. There aren't any. How many new successful bands do we see?
Right.
And everybody that is really established did that by going out on the road and getting in front of people every night of the week and playing. And it's hard to do today. I mean, it costs money. Gas is more expensive. It's harder to get shows. And I think a lot of that falls on the fans. I think that's another shift we've seen is just the music fans in general. When I was growing up, music was what you lived for. And it was literally every Tuesday new records came out and you had to be at the record store in the mall on that Tuesday. Right. And when concert tickets came out, you were there 4 hours before they went on sale, standing in line, making sure you were in the front 10 rows. And that was your life.
Right.
Today, video games are they're standing in line for the new iPhone. They're not standing in line for concert tickets.
Those are the new rock stars. Yeah.
It's, sadly, tech has become the new rock star in a lot of ways, but the fans aren't the same today. And I think that makes it all the tools that the artists have and all the tools that we in the industry have, we're competing with so much more today than we were 20 years ago that it gets even harder to break through to people because they just don't care anymore.
Right.
And music is something that's on in the background. It's not something that's a lifestyle. And there are people, especially in the metal world, where it is a lifestyle, but it's still, today's lifestyle doesn't compare to what a lifestyle was 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. Paul, what's the largest preventable mistake that you see bands make that can damage their careers?
I think not being patient. It's just nobody wants to be patient anywhere. Everybody always thinks everything's owed to them all the time. And especially today,
we're on an on-demand society. Everything is instantly delivered and handed to you.
Exactly. I mean, nobody wants to take 5 years to build.
Right.
But some of the greatest bands, how long did they go before they were discovered? And if, quite frankly, it was easier to do it back then because there was an infrastructure behind you. Today, there's so much. I mean, it's the Wild West today. So in a lot of ways, it's almost even harder to do it today.
Right.
So and the competition is different today.
Do you find that a greater challenge for you or something that you take on as far as to break a band?
I think it's definitely a greater challenge. And I think from a marketing side and a management side, it's something that you always have to take into account and you always have to consider. I find as a manager, a big, huge part of my job, and obviously there's the management aspect, and that you kind of learn how to do by making a lot of mistakes. But from the marketing side and the management side, I think one of the biggest things is actually reining artists in. And it's almost like playing cowboys and therapists.
Yep.
Because it's explaining to people you can't get from point A to point B without stopping at B and C first. And you're just trying to make the jump. And that's a lot of artists don't understand that, especially when, they may come up in a scene where one band breaks. Well, we were around longer than them. We started 3 months before they did. Why aren't we bigger than they are? Or, that guitar player used to be in our band, so why isn't our band bigger? And they get jealous of stuff like that, and they want that instant success. But the reality is what works for one band never works for the other band anymore. And so I think a lot of it is counseling, if I came back around to the question.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I find really critical at this point is just being able to rein people in and rein in, artists' expectations.
Right.
From a management side, reining in artist expectations, and from a marketing side and an A&R side, taking the whole business team and reining in expectations. Telling somebody you're not worth this much money a night and you're going to insult people if you tell them you are.
Right. What's the international marketplace like today for hard rock? And are you seeing any new territories emerging from that?
In a lot of ways, I think rock is healthier in other parts of the world. That's one of the things with Metal Edge that one of the things we want to do, and we're launching in late summer. We've got our first issue coming out, and one of the things we really want to do is start focusing again not even again, because Metal Edge didn't do this in the past, but focusing on the worldwide marketplace, because that's one thing we really do have access to everybody today. The internet does that. It's broken down all those walls. I mean, we've got perfect example in Vegas in early May. They're doing the Rock in Rio Festival in Vegas. It's going to be the 30th anniversary of the Rio version, and they're going to do their first one here in America. And it's now we're able to actually bring other parts of the world in together, and go to a tour like or a festival like Coachella, and you can see bands. You're seeing a lot of bands that are really, really big in the UK,
right?
And they don't do anything here in America. So part of what we would love to do is to start exposing some of those healthy markets. And it's not to say the markets are better than America. It's just to say there's great bands everywhere that aren't necessarily getting recognized. Yeah. So we could, hey, here's a great metal band from Brazil. Here's a great rock band from Ireland.
Some really great insights from Paul, who runs one of the leading music marketing companies in hard rock. So insiders, question of the day. From this video, what were the most valuable takeaways from our conversation with Paul? Was it his overview on the health of the current hard rock scene? Or was it his views on the many new platforms that are now available to break artists? Or was it at what point a band should be at before considering a tour? Or was it something else that stood out to you? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to MUBUTV for more information on how to educate, empower, and engage your music career. You can also check out a summary of this episode and everything we talked about in the description below as well. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd really love it if you hit the like button and let us know what other kinds of videos and types of content you would want to see on our channel. Hit us up in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.